Well, I'm glad Randy was ahead of me because he's about my height and I can manage this mic about his height. Let me say good morning to all of you as well. Thank you for being here. This is going to be, we believe, a great day. Welcome to what we are calling here the Leadership in Ag Biotech Shaping Future Strategies Conference. We have some really great speakers, but before I begin, let me say a word of thanks to Billy Ray Hall and Chancellor Harold Martin, who have very, very busy schedules on their own, and they've taken a lot of their time over the last 2 years to help us put together the agricultural biotechnology movement in North Carolina under the leadership of Gwen Riddick at the Biotech Center. But we're delighted to have such strong support from people who are extremely busy that will help us get this activity off the ground. We are calling this conference, as you heard Chancellor Woodson say, a leadership conference, and it is. And leaders, all of you are. This summit is the first, and some of you might not agree with this. Governor Hunt will, I think, because he'll recall, this is the first major gathering of agricultural leadership in this kind of environment that we've had since Governor Hunt and Commissioner Graham called such a conference back in Governor Hunt's last term. And so, Governor, as Rich Linton, the new dean of the College of Ag and Life Sciences, and I were talking this morning, that is way too long for us to get agricultural leadership together. Now, we've had a lot of other kind of meetings in North Carolina with agricultural people involved, but we've never, ever brought together since that last meeting that Commissioner Graham and the governor did, it's been at least 15 years ago, to talk about how are we going to drive this train forward and building on the successes that we've already created in North Carolina. And so that's what this meeting is all about today. How do we drive this train forward? We have now come together in an environment where the world, and yes, America, has finally concluded that rediscovering the importance of agriculture is tremendously important to our futures and to our well-being. I think even I could go further and say that the world has discovered that it has now become, Governor Hunt, extremely urgent that we reconsider how strong agriculture is and how much stronger it ought to be as we go forward. The world is finally coming to grips with an increasing population, the increasing demand for food and fuel, and the ever-present concerns about food security and food safety. And we're going to talk a lot about that the rest of the day. So that's what we're here to talk about today, to celebrate our successes, and there are many, but we're also here to prepare for an even more important future. Many of us who've been around agriculture for a long time believe that agriculture is on the verge of a major resurgence of importance in the world economy, because people have to eat and they need fuel. And we are fortunate in North Carolina that our growth in agriculture, along with the growth of the modern information technology highway and all those other things, building blocks for renewable energy and plants that manufacture medicine, that our roots in agriculture are extremely deep and they're important to our economy. But that is more evident to us today than it's ever been before. Our ag sector, and you'll hear from Commissioner Troxell later today, but our ag sector is still the largest segment of the economy in North Carolina. $71 billion annually, employing 17% of our workforce, and as you saw from the graphic we put up earlier, about 700,000 North Carolinians earn their living from agriculture. So agriculture has evolved in North Carolina as our state has evolved. Our farmers today, and we have some here, work differently than they did 25 to 50 years ago. We precision plant genetically modified seed today that need less moisture to germinate, fewer pesticides to thrive, and my Elanco friends and my Monsanto friends, and I'm a DuPont guy, as many of you know, we may not like that pesticide piece, but it's a reality today that we face. And we're producing greater yields than we've ever produced before on the same amount of land, or in many cases, even less land. The 20th century has given us something called agricultural biotechnology that promises to help us enhance the quality and quantity that we produce while reducing the environmental impact of our operations. This technology offers us new, outstanding ideas. Liquid fuel, for example, as Stephen Burke could tell you, liquid fuel from waste products out of forests. Protein essentials to infants grown in rice and crops that thrive in drought-ravaged regions of our world, while at the same time producing higher yields and more nutritious foods that are just plain good for us, Billy Ray. So North Carolina agricultural biotechnology offers us great new promise, we believe, to our farming, to our fuel, and to our food requirements, not only here in America, but around the world as well. And also the opportunity to secure that food source in a more viable way than we ever have before. To build a more secure financial future for us in America, not only with farmers, but for our citizens in general, and become even better stewards of the environment in which we treasure for ourselves and for our future. So as we were putting together the plan for today's program, we wanted to begin our day with a presentation from a man whose fingerprints are all over this state in so many ways that we can't count them this morning. He has literally, with the help of many of you in this room and people like us in rooms like this all over North Carolina and America, reshaped the landscape of North Carolina from a quiet agricultural, textile, and furniture state into a world leader in innovation, technology, and high-tech business development in North Carolina and also around the world. North Carolina, as a result of his leadership and others like him, have become a role model of leading-edge science, technology, and educational achievement and broad-scale business development, capitalizing on a great university system that produces research and technology equal to none in the world, and linking the great technology to the best human capital in America, our people. Governor Jim Hunt has led that change to shape all of that. He would be the first to say that he has done that with the help of people like you and me and others that he has worked with over his career in North Carolina as one of our great citizens. But let me remind you that he has led the pack for longer than most of us have been engaged in the activity ourselves. Born in Greensboro, reared in Wilson County on a farm, the son of a soil scientist and a teacher, Governor Hunt's career has spanned 50 years of service to this great state. And that's no pun intended, but his roots run really deep in North Carolina's soil and in our agriculture. His record-setting 4 terms as governor yielded progress for North Carolina in so many areas that only history will be able to accurately record his impact on the lives and livelihood of our state and our nation. With over 50 years of service to the state that he loves, and with so many honors and plaques that he could fill a couple of semi-trucks or maybe a library, what's left to say about this great man? Well, let me conclude my introduction by saying this. Let me bring him up with this. Join me in welcoming one of the greatest friends that North Carolina has ever had, and one of my best personal friends, Governor James B. Hunt. Governor Hunt.
Well, Norris, thank you very much. That was said like a good man to have followed me as student body president at NC State. But, you know, I sometimes say when I get over-introduced, as I just was, that I wish my wife and mother could have been here to have heard it. My wife would have enjoyed it, and my mother would have believed it. I'm delighted to be here with every one of you. This is a great group you have here this morning in a great hall where we've had many emerging issues forums. As you remember, Norris, we had 2 on biotechnology way back 25, 30 years ago. And to see all these leaders here, I can't make out all of you on the back row. That's why you ought to be up front. But I know so many of you. And this is this great leadership team. Here's Billy Ray Hall. North Carolina is the only state in America that's got a rural center. And other states, fellow in Alabama wrote me the other day how much he'd give his right arm, Billy Ray, if he had one. This great chancellor here, the 2 of them, of course, co-chairs for this event, heading one of our fine land-grant universities that I'm so proud of. And you do remember I put the money in there to get you that new engineering school one time. But all of you who are this team for progress, you should be proud of what you've done. You're going to hear a lot of things today and kind of get caught up. And we're proud to have all of our friends from around the country here, just sitting with a friend here from Indiana with an animal health company and sharing stories with him. We both grew up on dairy farms, except I came along a little before he did, and I milked cows by hand before we got milkers. But to see all of you and to know a lot about your history and what you've done, it makes me very proud. And to know that our Commissioner of Agriculture is coming today, and our Senator Burr, is coming, and all the folks who will be here. Well, folks, I want to paint a little bit with a sort of a broad brush as you start out this interesting and exciting day. When we started the Biotech Center back in 1984, we believed that it was an exciting opportunity for a state that had done some really good things over its history, had made some progress, but we weren't nearly where we needed to be. But we had hope and optimism that we could do great things. And by the way, I would remind you all who don't know it, that this was the first state in America to open a public university. Now that was something. Little old poor state, back in those poor days, to commit to a public university and say we're going to finance it with our tax money. Now, we had some universities, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, for the rich people, but this was for all the people, as all of our universities are in our wonderful system. So that's the way we got started, and we did it in that great tradition of our university system. Now, when we decided to create a biotechnology center, and I'm so proud that Chancellor Woodson was here to start us off today. When we decided to do that, we knew it was going to take some public investments. And the first point I want to make to all of you here today is how economic growth comes about for a society, for a state, for a country. A lot of it comes about because the people make some wise public investments in human beings, in smart people, in creativity and innovation. We've done that over the years. Did it when we created the universities and continue to build them. Did it when we created the Biotechnology Center. But you see, when you get that going and you get some infrastructure going, then the private sector, of course, which is already at work and the most vital thing about our country and our states. But they then have the workforce and the bright people and all these things that we can do together to make the economy work. So early investments of a few $1 million a year in biotechnology in North Carolina were really bold for their time. Listen, I was governor when we made many of these bold investments. It wasn't easy to do. Not everybody understood it. You had to work for it and you had to fight for it. But North Carolina generally has been open. They've seen the possibilities, and they've been willing to make those commitments, and we must continue to do it today. But fortunately, our 3-decade record of investing in biotechnology has fed a true turnaround in the economy of North Carolina. We're admired and envied the world over. Number 3, as was said earlier, in the U.S. life science picture, and battling to stay there, by the way. Everybody else wants to do this. We've kept our hand on the plow, as we'd like to say, during these times. Here's what we've done now, what we have done as a people. We've invested more than $1.2 billion in North Carolina's biotech base. We, the people, with public investments. From 1998 to 2000 alone. Others are now investing billions around the country trying to catch us. During that decade, we put $115 million into the pipeline through our Biotech Center. And again, I want to thank all of you who've been a part of that, the board of the Biotech Center. Norris, we were so fortunate to get him. He served in 3 cabinet positions in state government, folks. And yet, and everybody wanted to do everything else, but he was willing to come in and lead this wonderful effort. $857 million into research and facilities. This is through the work of the Biotechnology Center. $135 million toward workforce training. $102 million to infrastructure in direct company incentives. Now that's the kind of, these are big numbers. This is big work, and we've gotten results from it. According to a report prepared for the Biotech Center by Battelle, North Carolina's life science industry today, at a time when we're talking about jobs and we're thinking about the future and we need more jobs, this industry accounts for 227,000 direct and indirect jobs at more than 500 companies. Average wages in this industry, $75,000 a year, nearly twice the state's average. That's $12.7 billion in overall compensation. And it generates, by the way, $64.6 billion in North Carolina business volume. This is big. It generates $1.9 billion in taxes for the state and for local governments. It's a thriving industry, and it's grown about 23% from 2001 to 2010. Folks, this is you all. This is what you're doing. Thank goodness for biotechnology in all of its dimensions. Where would we be without this having come on the scene in the last decade? Now, our growth in this industry is about 3.5 times the national bioscience growth. And now it's pushing out. It isn't just here in Raleigh, the Research Triangle. It's all over the state of North Carolina. We've got all kinds of research centers around this state, and I'm proud that it is a statewide thing. Now, today you're going to have a chance to learn about some of our state's latest ag biotechnology innovations from homegrown companies, the Agile Sciences and Nanovector companies, as well as global leaders who have found North Carolina an attractive place to set up research and production facilities. BASF, Plant Science, Bayer, Crop Science, DuPont, Medicago, Monsanto, Novozymes, Syngenta. I had an opportunity to work with most of those companies as they came to this state, and we are proud of them, and we are proud of their leadership and the jobs we have. Now, folks, all of this that you're going to go into today, and I'm going to stay as long as I can because I'm excited about it and I want to learn more. This is a big deal because they tell us that planet Earth, and once in a while we should back up and say, all right, we are citizens of the world. What are the responsibilities we have, and what are the opportunities we have? How many farmers have we got in this crowd? I'm a little cattle farmer down here. Checked my cows this morning. Calf season's beginning. Not a whole lot, but most of you'd like to be. Let me tell you, this is a big deal, and as I said, agriculture is doing so well. You know what corn's selling for, beans, I could go on and on. You know why it's selling for that much? Because China and India have money to buy food, and they're buying it. And we want them to do well. But because of that, the planet Earth, and because they are there, planet Earth will have 9 billion people. They've got a lot now. We have a lot now in the world. But by 2050, there will be 9 billion people on this earth to be fed. We cannot do that without continued dramatic developments in biotechnology. The marriage of life science technologies across our state means we can provide future generations, not only with life-sustaining access to food, but livable options in fuel and medical care and basic needs. Well, what will be the developments? What will be the next game-changing developments for this state? Well, right up the road, north of here in Oxford, we've established the Biofuel Center of North Carolina as the nation's only state agency working for all aspects of biofuels development, from non-food sources such as recycling cooking oil and grasses and oilseed crops, wine, craft beers, and other ancient biotech products are now up-and-coming contributors to North Carolina's economy. Not only as products themselves, but as tourism generators. I'm always amazed, all these people who go to these wineries, aren't you? I bet some of you have been to them. Just amazing, and this is a part of this overall effort. The Biotech Center's new Crops Commercialization Center is working with a public-private partnership, and that has characterized the Biotech Center's work, partnerships. Yeah, we put some important big public funds in, but boy, they go out and partner with everybody, every which way you can find. And it's that partnering, public and private together, that has made it so very successful. And they're working with these partnerships for new and improved grains for North Carolina to take better advantage of sandy soils that don't do well now with corn and soybeans. Thousands of acres of clary sage grown for avoca in Bertie County. And that's a product, by the way, that goes into the fragrance industry. And this is the beatenest thing I've heard of lately. It goes into the fragrance industry and goes to make French perfumes. Can you believe that? And we're raising it right down here in Bertie County, North Carolina. Biotech will help farmers and growers across the state come up with the next big thing and the thing after that. I want to tell you, folks, I believed in this work that you're doing. I believed in it 30 years ago when we started the Biotech Center. We had to get people to believe in it and invest public funds in it, substantial as you've heard. And I know it now, and we've got to continue to believe and invest and work together. North Carolina farmers now are joining those around the world in using agriculture biotechnology tools to increase yields, to resist pests, use water more efficiently, and control the growth of weeds. You know that story. You know how that's working. The National Center for Food and Agricultural Policy reports that biotech crops in North Carolina add more than $82 million in value to crops and lower pesticide use by 3.5 million pounds. while increasing food and fiber production by about 86 million pounds. Globally, genetically modified crops have increased yields enormously. I won't even go into all these figures. You've heard a lot of these, and it's really amazing. One of the things that impresses me so much, and what we're doing here, when we can use the right kinds of genetic work and have the right kinds of seeds and crops, we really can take care of our environment. Norris indicated my daddy was a soil conservationist. When he came out of NC State, we were just starting the Soil Conservation Service in America, and he spent his life in it. We've always been interested in conservation, and good farmers are. This work, when you can have these kinds of seeds and these kinds of crops, we really can take care of the environment. And we really can produce food, more good food, in the developing parts of the world. And I've worked there for the Ford Foundation early in my life. And I know that children I saw starving then are getting good food today. So this is good work. This is morally good. So I want to just conclude by saying to you that today you're going to be looking at a lot of things. You're going to hear a lot of new things. You're going to be continuing to look at the big picture in the North Carolina agricultural landscape and a lot of interesting little things that make it up. You all here in this room, and you the leaders, have created this industry and this landscape in North Carolina. I commend you for your work on it. But I want to challenge you to do things that we haven't even dreamed of. Don't think about little stuff. Yeah, you got to make incremental changes. But think of the big things, where we can go, what we can be. We want to do it in North Carolina. Our people will lead it. Our people will make public investments in it and cooperate with the private sector. So I want to encourage you today to think big, learn a lot, make big plans. And through and with the exciting work of the Biotechnology Center and this whole group, I want you to help us make this great state of North Carolina all that it can be, all that it should be, all that it must be. Thank you and have a great day.